Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome to the new channel. This is the Rabbit Hole Ramblings, episode 1. I'm here with my man Nikos, out from Barcelona. Listen, this is what we like to do. I know that there's going to be nobody watching this show, so we're just throwing it out there, and we're going to go live. Oh, there's already 4 people that are watching. That's amazing. I was just saying to Nikos in the background, there's no chance anyone's going to be watching this show tonight. It's just gonna be me and you, Nikos, having a little chinwag about whether or not aliens are gonna alien, whether or not the Earth is flat, the moon landings. By the way, because we were talking about something I've only just recently discovered, Nikos. Right, I've only just recently discovered it, and it's this. Have you seen this thing that happened in Miami or in Florida like a year ago? There was like a portal apparently that opened up. Right? Have you heard about this story?
No, that's a new one to me, mate.
Listen, I've got some Instagram stuff for us to go through as well. I don't know if when I pull up the Instagram stuff, if it's going to there's no monetization because this channel's not going to get monetized for sure. But we'll see. Mate, Nikos, welcome back to the world of YouTube, mate. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, it's been a while since we spoke. It's been 6 months since our controversial first episodes, and it's nice to make your acquaintance again and have a little chat. And I got chastised in the comment section in the last time we did this, so I'm expecting the same thing again. But we come here to speak some conspiracies and some truth, and it's going to resonate with some people and not so much with others. So let's see what we can do.
What were you chastised for?
The thing that I was chastised for was my beliefs in the place where we live and the shape of what we live on. That was the thing that kind of a lot of people seemed to be very aggravated with. Like a lot of people were in the comments throwing all sorts of wild stuff at me, and I was trying my best to sort of rebut in the comments politely, but it just got a little bit too much. Some people, their beliefs are their beliefs, and
Listen,
it's controversial.
It's a safe space. I'm not married to any notion that if the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat. If it's round, it's round. We'll talk about that over there. We'll do an hour or so tonight, right? We'll have a little chinwag. But this is going to be the regular spot, mate. But listen, I doubt anyone's going to be giving you any hard time tonight. But we're just going to get back into it. But mate, let's start a little bit with where should we start, mate? Moon landings. But before you get any further, guys, listen. If you are watching this after the fact, I can see there's 10 of you that are dialing in. And we got the first comment of the show. James, big up to you, James. What the F is going on in here, then, mate? This is where we come to talk about things that the mainstream media will never get to you, right? And by the way, the rule one of OnlyCans. This show, by the way, Nicholas, you might not. It's called OnlyCans.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
When we're doing this stuff, okay?
Like it. Might get copyright strike for that.
Yeah, well, fuck it, mate. Listen, there's nothing to copy. What are they going to do? There's no subscribers. There's no money. There's nothing to take. We'll start another one. We'll start again.
Enough. It depends what we say. I guess they might use that as the reason to drag it down, depending on how controversial we get. But yeah, start with the moon landings. I can make my position quite clear. I don't think it happened. That's pretty much my take on it all.
I don't think it happened either. I don't, and the reason why. Look, I mean, for me, I've got no idea about the technology story. Right, I've seen all the clips of them saying, NASA engineers saying, we used to have the technology, but we destroyed it, and it's a painful process to bring it back again. And that was my first one. Like, what? Then I learned about the Van Allen radiation belt. I've subsequently seen loads of astronauts talking about when we get to the moon, we're going to have to go through the Van Allen radiation belt, which no human has gone through before. I'm like, well, we did it. We did it 50 years ago, didn't we? 60 years ago, when we had less computing power than we have in an iPhone 10 or whatever. And then you've got all those clips as well from like Buzz Aldrin, who's having interviews with, little kids when they say, or like the little girl or whatever that says, did you go to the moon or whatever? Or how did you get to the moon? And he says,
we didn't go there.
We didn't go there. And that's the truth. What are you saying, mate? I mean,
well, someone put an analogy to me when I had this conversation with someone about a year and a half back, and they put it like this. They was like, so you're telling me 2 cowboys got strapped to a rocket, got fired thousands of miles into the atmosphere, somehow managed to land this small little rocket with the technology of an iPhone onto an uncharted surface of the moon. They went and played around for a couple of hours, and then they decided, without any infrastructure, to shoot themselves back off their little moon landing operation and landed safely back on Earth a few days later. And when you kind of like break it down in that kind of like loose way, it does sound rather unbelievable. You know, think of the infrastructure that's required to make a rocket take off from Earth. How would you like, you know, rationally launch a rocket off of an uncharted plane? You know, it's just really. And then if you managed to do that, you then have to safely get it back all the way back to where they say that it comes. It's just ridiculous. Really, if you've got like a really open mind and like can really think for yourself, like it's just unbelievable, literally. So for me, it just, you know, like they're all Freemasons, as we said before on a previous show. You know, these people, unfortunately, you know, they.
Should we talk a little about the Freemasons? Shall we start at ground zero, mate? Shall we start at ground zero?
Go on then.
Freemasons. I've been invited to be a Freemason. Okay, I bumped into a guy in when I was in the city doing investment banking. I bumped into a guy, and he said he took a shine. He was an older fella. He took a shine to me, and he said, "Have you ever thought about joining the Freemasons?" And I said, "I have, but you know, what we doing here," sort of thing. And he's like, "Oh, no," and he immediately knew what I was talking about. He said, "No. There's nothing going on. There's nothing going on." There's too much going on, mate, isn't there? Like the kind of geometry, the way that like all of every powerful person, every single person that's ever been to space, apparently, everyone that's ever been a president, everyone that's ever got anywhere in business, to me, that they're all Freemasons. They've all got secret handshakes. What are you saying about the Freemasons? Are they the real rulers of the world? Are they the deep state? Is the Freemasons another word for deep state? What we saying?
I think it's there's a select group of people, not just one society. I think there's a bunch of different societies, and Freemasonry is one of them. But they have a lot of like hidden information that obviously is not privy to the public these days. I myself have been invited twice to come to lodges, and I know people that are in the Freemasonry sort of set, and you start at a very foundation level. You come in, it's like a jolly up for the boys, you know, but the more you're willing to compromise on certain things, you're set through tasks and tested, and you can move up quite quickly through the levels, you know, like it's just a big club and we're not in it, you know, and if you're willing to compromise some of your beliefs and, you know, you can be part of that. I think anyone these days can be part of it. It's not that hard to get into as much as it was like back in the day, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But yeah, they control everything. They control money. They control the decisions that, you know, a lot of the governments make. You know, the Fabian Society, one in the UK in particular, they control every politician in the UK. You know, these are all Freemasons. You know, they're told what to do, what to see. You know, and these, again, going back to the moon landing guys, these were Freemasons. They were part of a particular club, and yeah, like I said, it's just a lot of information that we've been not given access to, I think. So, you know, I did consider, well, the second time I was asked, I did consider, I must admit, you know, 'cause it was quite interesting. I was invited to come to the lodge and was told all these wonderful stories, and it sounds great, you know, but when you're in finance in particular, because you have a higher net worth, you're targeted more than maybe someone like myself nowadays. You know, when I worked in the city, in the square mile, you know, traveling a lot on planes and stuff, you find these people lurking around in airports. You know, I was approached at an airport by one. Yeah, they're just looking out for people like us just to carry on the growth of the sect. But there's many of them. There's a Skull and Bone Society. You know, I think there's about 7 or 8 of them. I haven't got all the names exactly here. But yeah, it would make sense as well if you think about it on a sort of grand plan. It would make sense that certain information is kept away from the general public, and these people hold that information that we're not privy to.
How far back do you think it goes, mate? All right, because what we do know about Washington, what we do know about the Freemasons is that they designed all of the major cities in America, right? And Washington, D.C. obviously is ground zero of political Freemasonry, political power, everything there. And the one of the things that I learned a long time ago, right? So this is, we know that, well, people that might be watching this probably do know this, but for those that don't, the idea behind who rules the world is that, I mean, David Icke said this in 1991. He said Satanists and pedophiles rule the world, right? And everyone called him a lunatic. And then bit by bit by bit, he was absolutely bang on about the PDF file side of the conversation. And the Satanist thing is starting to come to light more and more and more. And this, obviously, for those of you who don't know, that's like one of the major satanic symbols or whatever is an inverted pentagram, right? So you got this one here, and this was designed. The Washington DC was designed by Freemasons, and in every point of the pentagram here, you have a major, and they follow the roads, right? But it has a major sort of, I don't know what you call it, like a point in like a big deal of a monument, if you like. So at the bottom end of the pentagram, you have Washington DC. And by the way, if you can't, I'll show this on a different one. But Washington DC's roads within the grounds here look a hell of a lot like the road, like the outline of an owl. And we'll come to the owl when we get to the Skull and Bones and the Satanism at in Bohemian Grove. I'm sure you're familiar with Bohemian Grove, right, Nico?
Of course.
On the left-hand side, over here, you have you can see how it all follows the roads. You have Foggy Bottom, which is it's like a kind of a new age version of I believe, if I'm not mistaken, mate, it's like America's own sort of micro version of monoliths, sort of like Stonehenge type thing, without the monoliths, but it's all the kind of the sacred geometry is within the where the tree lines and things are. I think you've got also at the other point here, I think you have, if I'm not mistaken, some point of one of these points here, you've also got the Freemasons Lodge, right? I think it's one of these things. You familiar with this?
I've seen the layout of the cities and stuff like that. But I'm not familiar with what's at each of those connecting points. It wouldn't surprise me though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they all. There you go. On the on the left hand side here is here's the Illuminati pentagram, mate. So do you believe that that the rulers of the world are Satanists?
I think the people that currently rule the world are Satanists. Yeah, I believe that. I think the societies, like you're talking about there, I think they've all been around for the last maybe 300 years, 400 years. And these were the founders or the inheritors of the millennial reign of Christ, like I said before. There's lots of old architecture, buildings and things that have existed for hundreds more years before that are unexplainable because of just the architecture itself. And these people were the first people to stumble across it all, and they've kept a lot of the secrets hidden. So, sort of to answer one of your first questions that you asked there, I think this stuff's been around for about 300 or 400 years. I think was it 1776? I think in Italy, the Illuminati.
Yeah, I think same year America was founded, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the start of Little Caesar would have been around that time there, and I think these people have been charged with the protection of a lot of the information. So they feel themselves as superior to a lot of people. Maybe they're doing some sort of type of ulterior work, I guess. But yeah, I think it's been around about 300 or 400 years, and I think there's a bunch of different societies. And Bohemian Grove, you mentioned there as well. They're all part of the same sort of information sharing groups.
Mate, this one is fucking weird, right? So Bohemian Grove, right? For those of you who don't know that might be watching this after, there's 15 people here, by the way. Smash the like button, guys. Smash the subscribe. Bohemian Grove is a place in California, right? It's near San Francisco. It's in 2,800 acres of redwood forest. So it's in the middle of nowhere, completely secluded. And this is a place where all of the wealthiest men, and only men, no women allowed, all of the wealthiest men from politics, from various industries, from banking, from whatever else, every single year in July, I think it is, they go for 2 weeks, and they go for something called the cremation of care ceremony. But it's super top secret. You're not allowed to go there. It's a big deal in terms of political statements. Right the way back in 1943, I think it was, the Manhattan Project was officially, it's been declassified officially, which the Manhattan Project was where Oppenheimer was given the go ahead essentially to create the bomb that was dropped on, maybe it was 1941 or whatever. But all of the presidents and the power plays, all of the major egos around politics, they all got together at this place, but no one knew what it was at the time. If you weren't part of it, you weren't allowed to go in and see what it was. Alex Jones had heard from various sources or whatever that people were in there doing a lot of homosexual activity and shagging gay prostitutes and all this thing. With no problem with that. Do whatever you want to do, whatever. But then he was told about this thing called the cremation of care. And basically, they all get together and they wear robes like they're Ku Klux Klan members or something to that extent, or like they're all pagans essentially, and they all basically worship they do a mock effigy of basically burning alive it's not a real person that's being burnt alive, but it's like an effigy, like a kind of a symbolism of a human being burnt alive. You can see the picture there in front of a 40-foot stone owl, a giant owl carved out of a giant piece of stone, which is a Molech. And if you know your religious text, if you read the Old Testament, Molech was a demonic Canaanite demon, essentially, that used to eat babies, right? And so this thing, all the powerful people in the world, they get together and they go and pay their homage, pay their respects to a god that hasn't been worshipped in 2,500 years, who represents the same thing that the Roman god of Saturn does. Saturn was obviously the god that also in Roman mythology was into eating children as well. And Saturn, if you look at Saturn if you can ever see it in the sky, it looks like an eye, right? Because of the rings around it, it looks like an eye. And from there, you get the pyramid and the eye and the pyramid. You also, if you look at the $1 bill, you have pictures. You have the owl written. I'll show you in a second, but the owl, which is a massive thing in this symbology of these people, it's also hidden in the top right-hand corner of the $1 bill, isn't it, Nikos? Are you familiar with all this stuff?
Yeah, there's actually it's hidden on the $1 bill, but the Bohemian Grove itself, I think they've stopped using it. I've watched one of these channels on YouTube where there's they're like explorers, like young kids in their 20s, and they go and explore all these weird locations, and they actually got into Bohemian Grove with a camera, and it's derelict. They've still got
derelict now, is it?
Yeah, it's derelict. It looks run down. All the cabins are there. You get like a real sort of first eye view of like what it would have been like to be there. But the big owl, like you speak about there, is still there, but I don't think they use it anymore. I think since Alex Jones got in there with that camera in the early 2000s, I think the profile of it raised so much, it's just not a safe place for them to do what they were doing before. So I think now they do it. What's it called? There's a place where the president goes every other weekend. It's like just north of Washington. It's Camp David.
Camp David?
Exactly, Camp David, yeah. I think that's where they do it now.
Yeah, well, listen, mate, they're into some. I mean, you should see what's going on in Davos, right? Where the World Economic Forum gets together. It's all Davos is obviously built in the mountains, funnily enough. And when you have things that go up, it means you can build into things into buildings, and then you can drill in. I mean, should we talk about deep underground military bases, Nikos, the DUMBs, or should we save that for another episode? What do you want to do?
No, talk about whatever you want, mate. The more people that can see how crazy we are, the less people will get to view. But no, mate, it's a big thing. A lot of people are not aware of what these actually things are. So people like you and I who have put a little bit of research into them, we should talk about them. I mean, there's lots of them all over the world. I think they're all inherited. Maybe they're being expanded in recent sort of decades, but yeah, a lot of it happens all over the world. There's big underground tunnels that are everywhere. I think some of them go down to 10,000 kilometers, I think on one of the previous shows we did, which is mind-boggling if you really think about how deep that goes. But since they've sort of started red pilling the public a little bit with what's under the Giza Plateau and how far that goes down, and the buried cities in Turkey that go down for 40 floors and stuff, I think people are starting to sort of realize that there's a lot more under our feet than we realize. In America, I think there's one called, is it Cayenne Mountain?
Yep, that's right.
In Cayenne Mountain, there's a big one. There's one in New Mexico. There's one. There's a few that I'm aware of that I've come across in my research. But yeah, they're these deep underground military bunkers. It's for lots of testing. I think a lot of it's for safeguarding a potential cataclysm as well. I think a lot of it's for that. But these deep underground military bases, is big business. Big black budget business. On the government's black budgets, this is what a lot of it goes into.
Do you remember 9/11? Right. Obviously, we can talk about that another day. But on the 10th of September that year, Donald Rumsfeld, right? And I know you know this, but for those that might be watching or listening afterwards, on the 10th of September, Donald Rumsfeld, the most evil man allegedly that has ever been given oxygen on this planet, he does a like a media interview, and he's talking about $2 trillion of government spend that can't be accounted for. Back in 2001, $2 trillion today seems like it's nothing really, because of the amount of debt we've got. They just print money like it's going out of fashion. But in 2001, that was a fairly big deal. That was about the entirety of the American debt
that
had ever been, like, they'd ever had. And he basically said, "Yeah, we can't. We've lost the receipts. We don't know where that money's gone. Sorry." And they were doing an audit of it, and that was the building in the Pentagon that was responsible for the audit of the $2 trillion happened to be the area that happened to have a plane / missile that. No one ever mentioned it again. Funnily enough,
what a lot of your younger members probably won't realise is, going back 20 years or 2001 or whatever, everything was documented on paper. So there was not all these digital records. Everything was copied in paper, and the Pentagon and the World Trade Centers both had records of this illicit spending that would have been happening, especially the World Trade Center. So it's just coincidental that those particular two places at the same time on the same day were destroyed that had all those records, Building 7 as well, had a lot of the records as well. That's where a lot of the black budget spending records were kept. So
all disappeared.
Make of that what you will.
Never to be seen again, mate. Never to be seen again. Listen, I want to ask you: have you been keeping up to date with these UAPs? I know we're jumping around a little bit because obviously it's 10:44 on a Friday night. I've had a few beers. I hope you had a couple too. I hope everyone that's watching. There's 20 people here now. Love that. Smash the like button, guys. This is the first of many. Hopefully, unless we get shut down, which we probably will. And if we do, I'll wear that as a badge of honor. But have you been keeping an eye on these UAPs and this alien? What's your take on the whole alien thing, man? Do you think aliens are real? Do you think it's a psyop? Do you think they're interdimensional? Do you think they've always been here? Do you think they're coming from Mars? Talk to me. What do you think with the alien thing? Because it's like hot topics right now, isn't it? The old alien story.
Yeah, it depends how you define aliens. Because obviously, in my theory of what I believe in the flat Earth, there's a firmament above us, so there's nothing coming in from another planet for first. So there's no one flying on a rocket. So my theory on what these reptilians are, or whatever these aliens that are perceived to be aliens are, have been here and are here. They're probably under the ground, potentially maybe from over the ice wall. But these people are probably the constructors of our civilization. They were here probably long before we were, and they'll probably be here long after we're here. That's probably the best way of explaining it.
Do you believe? Okay, this it's we have to factor in the worldview here. So, are you someone that believes in the firmament? So, are you religious then in that regard?
Yeah. Well, I was raised as a Christian, and through my 20s and 30s, not so much. I kind of like dabbled in the behaviour that you get up to. So you kind of lose that touch on faith a little bit. But as I got a little bit older and had a family, kind of reconnected. So the last 10 years, I would say I've got a lot more in touch with faith and connected with God again.
So on that basis then, and by the way, I was never religious. I went to a Catholic school, right? And I was in church every day, but I was never religious. It's so weird. So like my mum is Irish. She was brought up to believe in the book, right? The Bible. And I remember I've always felt guilty because I think I might have said this to you last time we did it. But I remember my mum, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago or something, when I was like getting straight right in. I was really deep into this stuff. And my mum was like, Adam and Eve and all that stuff, yada, yada. And I was like, what, so you believe in like the animals they went on 2 by 2? You believe in, Noah's Ark and that? And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh, come on. What are we doing here? Like, and I sort of laid it out to her like the kind of the atheist would do. And then she lost faith as a consequence. She's like, you know what? Since you said that to me, Sean, I've always thought, yeah, you're right. It's absolute bollocks. And ever since then, I then discovered Satanism. I did not me into it, but I've looked and saw how there's 666 absolutely everywhere, right? Like you look at the Pope's cathedral, the Pope's reception room, which I'll show up in a minute. All of the, you know, if faith is real, then to me, the best way to find it, the best way to see it is to look for the devil, which is absolutely everywhere. And if the devil's real, then maybe God is too, right? Or hopefully God is too.
I remember you said this before in a previous show, actually, but yeah, the best way to meet God is to find the devil first, because he's quicker to find you.
Yeah, exactly.
He's easier to find.
But you believe in the flat Earth, but I want to ask you, because you got the flat Earth, like you've got this bit of the flat Earth. Forget about the stuff outside it, right? And this is the same. This is like obviously Antarctica is the ice wall. Do you believe that the firmament starts here, or do you believe in the whole shebang, which is bringing in all of these things here, or do you go even further, like some of these guys who believe things like this, which is just like a wild map of land, and these people haven't just made this stuff up, right? Like these people have found this stuff in like maps that were discovered from
ancient maps
from thousands of years ago, right?
Yeah. My thought on it is, like, again, you can't be sure, but my thought process on that would be like we would be enclosed. Earth as we know it, or what we know as our planet, is enclosed in its own firmament. You know, but beyond that, there are other lands. Potentially, they're under a separate, bigger firmament that supersedes what we're under. You know, and just, you know, I don't know. But I think probably
how does this work though, right? Are they saying that when you look in the sky, because you might be closer to this than me, but are they saying that when you look in the sky and you see Mars, and on this map you've got, hang on, let me zoom in a bit. You got like Saturn here, right? And you've got Mars somewhere else. Where would it be? Oh, you got Neptune here, for example, Uranus here. Like all of the kind of planets that are apparently that you can see in the sky. I don't know if they are them or not. But what are they saying then? Like it's a reflection off of the firmament that's showing land that's reflecting off of the glass or whatever it is that's the dome.
I don't know. I think about this a lot, right? It's weird to think about, but you know how here on Earth we've got the Polaris, the North Star.
Yeah.
What if each one of these individual firmaments on this picture here have all got their own northern Polaris bright star? And when we see the Mars, if you like, through a telescope, what if we're seeing the northern star of that next firmament enclosed?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like you can only see a few of them. It's not like there's only so many planets you can see, like 7 or 8 planets they say you can see. You know, the rest of it's kind of like made up theoretical science and astrology. But you know, the prominent ones, like you said, Mars. What if it's just the next one along, and when we can see it in the sky and it's bright and prevalent and red, what if we're just seeing their northern star? If that makes sense.
It is interesting, right? I don't know about any of this stuff. Right? So, like in terms of the like the Earth being flat and things, I'm open minded to anything. If I'm trying to go to bed at night, trying to go to sleep, there's no chance I'm watching football content. There's no chance I'm watching political content. There's no chance I'm watching, I don't know, something else. I'm going to go to bed listening to someone convince me that the Earth is flat, and then someone try and convince him that it's not. Well, I love that sort of shit. It's brilliant. But there's certain arguments that they make that, to me, I didn't need to hear for me to have those same thoughts. Like Polaris. If the idea of the Big Bang, if everything starts in this little spot here, right, and everything goes from here, bosh, and everything moves out like that, right? Everything moves out from the singular point. Then I don't care how close Polaris or the sun or whatever else is to us, to our point. If we're all moving out from a singular point, then we're all moving away from each other. And yet Polaris has been at the epicenter. You look up and everything pivots around it forever. Since records began thousands of years ago, everybody has talked about the North Star Polaris being in the middle of the sky and everything else pivots around it. How can that be if the Earth has been around for 1 billion years or more, however many million years it is? Surely at some point it's going to deviate a little bit from the Earth. It can't be in front of it. If everything's going like this, at some point it has to move away, right? It has to get even a fraction of a degree away from the north, from its central axis.
Exactly.
It must do, right?
When you start like indoctrinating yourself, when you start to like undo the lifetime indoctrination you've received about where we live and what we live on, one of the first places you start is with the stars. The Polaris star, there's a time lapse, a 365-day time lapse where you can see it all year round. And if you do it in a fast motion, like on a video, you can just see it. It goes around and creates this beautiful circular pattern. If you was living on some crazy Big Bang theoretical spinning ball, that star would never ever be in the same position again, let alone to be able to create the time-lapse photos that it can produce. You know, so another thing is, like, if you've been to Australia, you're familiar with like the Southern Cross. You know, it's the same thing where they are. You know,
yeah, that's the only part of the flat Earth narrative that doesn't make sense is when people say, why is it then that the stars turn the other way? And the answer that's given is, it's like if you were to look at a light in the sky, right? If you look at it, and if it's doing that if it's doing that here, and you go to the other side of the room and you look at it, it's turning anti-clockwise versus clockwise. But that doesn't actually make any sense when you think about the logic, right?
Is it turning anti-clockwise though?
Yeah.
Like, is it? I don't know. I've never thought about it.
Yeah. So like the stars pivot the other way around in the southern hemisphere, right? That's like it does turn anti-clockwise. But the people that are proponents of the flat Earth, when they put their argument together to explain that, they say like their logic is: imagine you've got a light in the center of a room and it's turning clockwise. Go and stand in the other side of the room and look at it, and it's turning the other way around, right?
Yeah.
But the logic doesn't logic with that when you think about it. What I would say though is it would be very fucking easy for NASA to get a picture of a video from one of the rockets thing, or even fucking Elon Musk, right? Just to go up into space and then get a pic, go far enough away that you can get a picture and see some planes flying underneath it, like flying upside down.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
they don't do it.
Like, no one's. I've always asked when people debate me online when I was a bit younger and I was a bit more enthusiastic about debating people about it. I've always said, like, send me a picture of a bunch of people in Australia standing upside down. You know, it's not going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. If you think about it, it doesn't make sense. But you've got to open your pineal gland up a little bit and be willing to kind of understand that maybe you was miseducated to even comprehend some of this stuff. But
so yeah, Madsy's asking, what reason would there be to lie about the shape of the Earth other than for shits and giggles?
Money, shitloads of money. I think NASA alone get paid $160 million a day to provide you with photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as well,
I'm personally not an advocate of the flat Earth. I don't believe it is, but I'll play the argument. What I would say is it all comes back to faith.
Exactly.
Right? It all comes back to faith. If you have a book that tells everyone to worship God and to be a good person, all that stuff, and that story says you're in a dome and everything else, you can't go anywhere and you can't leave, then if that's the truth, then the book has more credibility. If it's not true, then the book loses its credibility.
Exactly.
And at the same time, the amplification of that narrative is that if you're just this meaningless person among 8 billion other meaningless people that's on a meaningless planet among trillions of planets, among trillions of, solar systems, among trillions of galaxies in an unknown amount of universes, etc., then you stop having a relationship with God because you stop thinking that you have any purpose in this journey. And so then once you've got that once you've got that seed planted, then it's easy to it's far easier then to sow the seed of leading people astray.
Yeah, well, their main goal is to push their God. So the more they can push you away from your real God, the easier it is for them is to corrupt. So the Bible itself references the firmament something like 30 times. It never once mentions a globe. Every single civilization in recorded history that has maps of the earth are all flat. So I think the reason why especially the last 70, 80 years in particular, they've really pushed this round earth stuff is to take you away from that ultimate being, like that connection with God. It makes you feel minuscule, like you said. So when you feel like, oh, we're just some big bang experiment, we're monkeys in space and stuff, it kind of like undermines the grand design. It takes you away from that purpose. I think that's the main goal behind it. But there's many purposes for them to mislead us all. It's, if you don't know where you are or what you are, the less you are to be a disruption. They make a lot of money out of entertaining people. This is why in the movies, when they first started bringing out, movies in the 1920s, 1930s, one of the first things they slapped on the front of every single movie you watch was a spinning ball. It's just to deceive you. It's just to throw you away off the scent, and all these decades later, people were none the wiser. It all ties into the same, but they make a lot of money deceiving people and keeping up the charade as well. So,
well, money's the root of all evil, right? So here's some people that don't. Like, I'm not saying anyone to believe in faith or whatever if you don't want to, but you got the Pope's reception hall in the Vatican City. What is the last thing that the Pope should want to have the look of his reception hall where he gives a mass? What would be the last thing that you would want as an animal to be represented? It would be a snake, right? A serpent, because that is the deceiver, the grand deceiver.
From the Bible, from the Garden of Eden, the snake was the one that gave Eve the apple to eat. So in their theoretical history, they say that the snake is the key to deceiving. So that's where I think the snake comes in.
Look at this shit, right? So this is the Pope's hall, right? This is his reception hall. First and foremost, I'm going to zoom in on this in a minute. That's the Pope there giving his mass, or whatever, with his people around him. We're going to come to that bit in a minute. This is supposed to be Jesus' ascension represented. These are people sort of that are worshipping or whatever. But let's just zoom out a little bit. First of all, this is the Pope. Same thing I just pointed to over here. This is what this is. Right.
I think it represents stolen souls. I think that statue represents the stolen souls, or some stolen souls.
I agree, right? But if you zoom right in, I can't zoom anymore, but you can see Jesus' face there, and apparently his hair is like brushed to the left, and it's supposed to be Jesus' ascension from the ground or whatever. But like the actual depiction, it looks like it's a face, and looks like a bit of hair, but it's a very specific thing. If you actually zoom out a little bit, what it really looks like is a fucking snake's head, right?
Yeah.
That's Jesus's face there, zoomed in. You can see it. It looks like a fucking snake. But more than that, this motherfucking thing is the design. This is the hall from the back, right? These are the seats. This is the tongue, or this is the walkway. Does that not look like a fucking snake to you, Nick?
Yeah, it's because it's meant to be a snake. It's meant to look like a snake because it is a snake. It's
supposed to be a snake in the Pope's hall. Like, what are we doing here? Like, if anyone is sitting there saying that the Roman Catholic Church hasn't been completely bastardized and completely corrupted by people that worship the devil, and I can't believe people go there and don't see it and are not asking questions. Why isn't anyone in the media? Why has no one ever gone, why does that look like a snake? A snake is supposed to represent everything that is antichrist. He's the guy. He was the kind of the whisperer, right? The snake was the guy that said, "Don't worry about God. You eat that fruit. You eat that fruit."
Exactly. Have you ever been to the Vatican itself? Have you been to Rome and the Vatican?
Nah, never been.
Mate, I've been there, right? It's like the weirdest place. Like the energy is just insane. Like if you're in tune with like energy, I'm a little bit, and I wasn't so much back then, but you can just feel something's off there. And as you go around their museum, like there's just all this stuff doesn't make sense. You know, they've got like Egyptian tombs and just stolen archaeology from all over the world, and like you go through it, and it's like your brain's trying to figure it all out and put the pieces together, but it's just so. It's such a strange place, mate. Honestly, like I would suggest anybody to go and see it, especially if you're on like a truth journey, because it's so eye-opening. But it's a really weird place. It's like just feeling of it in total. It's a really strange place.
I want to. We've got sort of 20 minutes left on this. I just wanted to break the ice on the stream with you and me, mate. We've been doing a lot of these. I want to
talk about the drones. You were talking about the drones. You brought the drones up.
Yeah, but we'll talk about the drones in a minute. What I want to show you this, right? I want to show you this. I hope I'm not going to get demonetized immediately. Have you seen it?
It's been 594 days since the Miami Mall incident, and we have still not received any explanation for why they needed 200 cop cars for a teenager fight with fireworks. That's obviously not what happened, and since we've gone so long without getting any official explanation for what happened, it's pointing towards this actually being an alien encounter where they transported into Miami Mall instead of their base in Antarctica. It's seeming a lot more like that now because we haven't.
All right, so just quickly, right? So you can see all the cop cars there. This happened a year ago. A year and about I think it was June. Oh, there you go. The 4th of January, 2024. So there was apparently a fight between school kids outside a mall in Florida. 208 cop cars turned up. And I think I've got the other clip, which it might even be in this, or I think I might have it liked. There's all these rumors. All these kids were like, "Holy, what the fuck!" Like a portal opened up, right? Like a big, like a ring opened up with like a luminescent kind of force field, and then these motherfucking creatures came out. Apparently, that were like. They were walking on all fours, but had giant long legs, looked like fucking spiders. I'm not sure if you can see it on this. It might be another clip that I've got. But so what happened was, right, so the next day, or like that night and the next day, everybody's phone in the area got wiped. Everyone's phone just crashed, and then all of the data just disappeared. All of the store, all of the videos and pictures or whatever, regardless of who you were, whether you were there or otherwise. They wiped everything. But then there was a guy who was talking in Congress, and his name, they were referencing someone who, I think they said his name was Witz or Yitz or Spitz or something. And they said there is a guy who was there, a 17-year-old kid who was there. We are trying to find him. He has some footage on his phone that is sensitive to the security of, like, sort of it's high, top secret. And it's completely sensitive to the security of the United States. Legit video of someone in Congress talking about this. I think it's either in this video or it's in my liked files. So I'll see if I can show it now. It's madness. Go on,
I do remember seeing the actual video of the portal and the big thing with the big arms. I do remember seeing that now that you brought it up.
It's wild. Let me see this. It might be on this. Let me see.
Actually gotten a concrete explanation for what happened here. And we still have a few videos that managed to make it through the mass data wiping of everybody's phones in the area that made it through, and we still don't know what these creatures were that showed up here. There were multiple different angles of shots being taken of these gray alien creatures with 4 legs, and we still don't know what they are. And I just recently saw this video of what appears to be a portal showing up on a security camera footage inside of the mall, but I don't know how credible this individual video actually is. It's been 594 days.
I've got, that's not the I've got the other part of it here somewhere. The police.
If some of that was real, wouldn't it make more sense that it's something that lives underground, as opposed to something that's come through a portal or come from another planet? Wouldn't it make a little bit easier comprehension just to think, you know what, there's a bunch of stuff that lives under the ground here, and this is one of the things that's got out. You know, Miami's a bit of a weird place as well. I don't know if you've ever been there, but
yeah, I've been to Miami a few times, mate. I had some good times and some wild times there.
Yeah, same. Yeah, good and bad memories. But Miami's a bit of a weird place of energy as well. It's a bit of a weird place of energy as well. There's lots of like history and stuff that happens on that coastline. You know, like it's where NASA launches all of its rockets. It's the closest place to, you know, if there was a tunnel that went to all of the islands in the Caribbean, like Epstein and all that kind of stuff. If there was an underground tunnel, it would go to Miami.
Yeah, 100%. So, it's not the only place. I used to know this guy in Australia. His name was Cobbers, right? He was a fucking awesome dude. When I knew him, he was a plumber or a tradie. And then I went to live in America. I went to live in New York. And then when I left New York, I went back to Australia just to see some mates. And he had like gone through some sort of spiritual ascension, spiritual awakening, whatever. He hooked up with some woman, older woman, who was into like, you know, like trippy stuff. And myself and my mate went up to see him, and he basically him and his wife, him and his girlfriend. When I met them, I was having a good time and everything, and they said something about my aura. They said, "Oh, you've got a hole in your aura, Sean." Right? And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And they're like, "Oh, don't worry." I was like, "No, you can't drop something like that on me. That's a horrendous thing to say." But he was like, "I think you spent too much time in New York." I was like, "Well, what's New York got to do with it?" And they're like, "Oh, there's so many reptilians." Energies in New York because it's a money capital of the world. I didn't believe in any of that shit at the time. I was like, "What are you talking about? Pass me the spliff and shut the fuck up." I walked away and I was like, "Fucking motherfuckers telling me I've got something wrong with my aura." It's a horrible thing to say.
Yeah, you know? I think there's something about New York actually. Again, somewhere I've been a lot, and that is a very dark feeling place. You know, there's lots of history of what happens there, and if you go into the Tartarian research, there's a lot of the old buildings that still exist there. So I had a pleasure of going there for a week or so with a friend, party weekend, crazy party weekend, and it just, yeah, there's something about New York, you know, the Ghostbusters, you know, always comes to mind, you know, the 1980s when they was talking about all the ghosts and stuff in New York. It's just always got this weird feeling about New York too.
Dude, so we're gonna in a minute. I'm gonna show you conspiracy. Have you seen the Pinocchio? We've done the Pinocchio one, haven't we?
We've done the Pinocchio one before. Yeah.
Have you done the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one?
Is that with the pizza, eating the pizza under the ground and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did that one before the last one. Feel free to invite a few people if you want.
Let's just see the best. This is this wasn't in Congress. Sorry, this was Bayside Miami Mall Witness is going to release the footage. So this is about this. This is the same thing as what we just talked about a second ago. Ready?
Fitz, my testimony will touch on this matter, and I've been asked to approach with extreme caution. The incident at the Bayside Marketplace in Miami on January 1st is currently classified, and I've been instructed to refrain from divulging certain details due to the ongoing nature of the investigation. However, in the interest of transparency, I will provide what little information I am authorized to share. A New York resident we will be referring to as Fitz was indeed present at the Bayside Marketplace on the night of the incident. The DOD has confirmed that Fitz may have witnessed something classified. Reports indicate that this individual captured footage of the event in question, footage that, as of now, remains classified and has not been retrieved by the federal government. This footage, if revealed, could have profound implications. Now, the individual named Fitz, my test.
I think that's from Washington DC, from a Washington DC. I don't know how real it is, but I like. What are we doing here?
They're all corrupt fuckers, aren't they? Let's just have it right. They're all corrupt fuckers, all of them.
It's absolutely insane. I want to know more about that whole thing in Miami. Either way, when was the last time 200? I don't even reckon 200 police cars were in New York the day of 9/11. You know?
No, probably not. No.
Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
But they've lost the thing that you know that I think I said in one of the last shows is to get to where they want us to be. You know, they need us to have phones in our hand, internet in our hand, digital IDs, digital money, all that stuff. You know, that's where we're at this point in time. But one of the things that they didn't bank on was that people would share information like the way that we do now, like this. You know, they didn't anticipate, well, maybe they did, but they thought maybe they could control it, but they didn't anticipate people would be able to share information so quickly. So stuff like that happens in Miami. As soon as someone sees some crazy shit they've never seen before, it's straight onto the internet, straight onto X, straight onto Instagram and Snapchat, and bang, everyone's, you know, people were there for minutes, you know. So I think they've kind of like tried to keep on top of it all, but they're losing control of it. You know, they've lost control of it, actually, is the right way of putting it. So I don't know what that is. I don't know. I reckon that's something under the ground. If that's real, like the thing is, you can't trust anything you see on the internet these days. That could be AI, that could be CGI, that could be anything. You know, they've convinced the world that we live on a ball, for fuck's sake, with the paintings, you know, like, you just don't know.
Have you seen? Getting off the topic of conspiracy, do you know who the guy HS Tiki Toki is? Harrison something. Have you seen him? He's like an influencer, right? He's I don't know. He's an influencer. He gets pissed. He shags birds, does gear or whatever, and he's a kick influencer. Makes a lot of money and all that stuff. He people have like it puts you off the idea of doing this sort of thing content, because people have spent a lot of money doing AI videos of him, right? And they've trained these AI things, whatever, to take a picture of him or video of him, whatever, and then turn it into something better and like more. And they've got videos of him doing all sorts of fucking weird shit, like dressing up as basically as a gay guy, dancing, chatting to like a 4-year-old girl and flirting with the 4-year-old girl. And you can see on TikTok, he's like furious. He's going like, people don't know that this is all fake. This is AI. And my brand and my reputation is being destroyed. And you can't tell the difference, Nick, mate. You can't, like, it's you're watching it and you're watching him going, that's not me. That's not me. And you're looking at him looking at it, and he's got his picture on one side of the screen and then this AI video on the other. And you can't honestly tell the difference. It's scary, mate.
I saw an AI video of Stephen Hawking on a skateboard ramp the other day.
I've seen that,
yeah. Whenever, like that's when you like come back to it, like when you come back to like your consciousness, you need to understand this is what they've been doing with everything for the last 40, 50 years. They have this technology. They've had this technology long before we got it. So why is it that they couldn't have deceived people in many ways up until now? You know, you'd use it as a tool, as a weapon. But yeah, the things you see unfortunately on these apps these days and social media, you just can't believe any of it. You know, like be very, very cautious about what you believe. I would say, you know.
Let's yeah, go on, mate. Sorry.
I was just saying that the Stephen Hawking one though, like it's not many things that make me laugh these days, but that was
it's hilarious. That, isn't it? He's dropping into the half pipe, and there's another one of him getting body slammed on in a wrestling ring and stuff, getting arcade or whatever it's called. You know, absolutely hilarious.
I do like this stuff.
I want to show you this one. I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's an unbelievable. This geezer is the CEO of a cloud seeding company, and he goes on to Tim Pool on his channel, and one of Tim Pool's guests just goes in on him, right, about cloud seeding, because I've been someone that's been looking up right at the sky for the last 15 years, going, look, you see that, like tic-tac-toe, right? They're doing noughts and fucking crosses in the sky, and you're telling me that that's natural. And then everyone in my life's going, Butler, shut the fuck up, mate. You're a conspiracy theory donut. But it's just being legitimized, and like no one's even sort of challenging it unless you're in the fringe.
Every country on the planet now has a geoengineering program, and what you're seeing with those contrails is geoengineering, whether it's to hide the sun or to poison the populace or whatever it is. But every country in the world that has planes flying over its borders has a geoengineering program. Fact. And one of the first things I woke up to was the chemtrails, especially in the UK. Like in the UK, it's so obvious, so prevalent. You know, it's always like here in Spain, it's not so like you don't see it as much because it's such a vast amount of land. But in the UK, because it's a tiny little island, it's obvious on a clear day. So yeah, the geoengineering programs, again, one of these black budget programs that, you know, is never on record anymore. But it happens. You know, one of my friends is a pilot. He tells me this stuff happens. There's switches in certain planes. They turn the chemtrails on at a certain point. They're given a program of when to do it, when not to do it. You know, it's scandalous. You know, this is why you can't believe all this climate change nonsense. There's a lot of people that are jumping on the climate change bandwagons and stuff. But if the governments actually were interested in climate change and, you know, conscious of what was being sprayed, like they wouldn't be flying private Learjets all over the world to go to Davos. There would be 500 planes turning up at Davos, you know, because one private jet is equal to the lifetime of a car.
Yeah.
So these you know, these programs, these geoengineering programs are there for a reason. I can't quite put my finger on exactly what their main purpose is, but I think a lot of it is a dual purpose of poisoning and maybe blocking out the sun. You know, sunlight is
option three. They pump all the chemicals. Yeah, they're all like soft metals, right? Soft metal. I've just taken a course. I'm taking a course right now on chemistry because I want to understand. I always regretted like not taking chemistry at school, and I want to understand like what sort of bromium phosphate and aluminum, whatever these chemicals are, right? That apparently are up in the atmosphere, but they pump them up there and then suck them out through the lithosphere, and I think that's going to be a massive part of Project Bluebeam when they.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's all happening at the same time, right? They're increasingly allowing information to come out about aliens. Whether I don't necessarily think it's real, but the story is getting more and more and more into the open zeitgeist, so that when something finally does emerge, when something finally does happen and come here, whether it's actually coming here or whether it's bullshit, we won't know. But the vast majority of people are going to get bullshit into it, mate, just like they did in COVID. And you know what? The most embarrassing thing, I don't care. Like the UK population right now is at each other's throats in everything, right? Whether you're right wing, left wing, whatever, everyone's got a problem with everyone else. Digital ID comes out, and 60% of the people that were woke yesterday, no, I don't mean woke as in like left wing, I mean like awake rather to the nonsense. The people that are waking up to the nonsense, all of a sudden, those 60% of those people are now on board digital ID because they're getting sucked into the bullshit that the things that they think are the problem with the world are going to be solved by digital ID. And I'm like, you guys were just waking up and now you're getting sucked in again, you absolute bozos. What are we doing here?
This is one of the main reasons why they're bringing a lot of immigrants into our countries, is because they can glorify the digital ID system. You can be proud to have a digital ID because these immigrants can't have it. It'll be a way of making it sound better than what it actually is. But the digital ID system is very, very simple. It's connected to the cashless society. They need people with a digital ID system and a digital wallet. This is where crypto comes into it, like I spoke earlier. They need it all connected together, and that way they can start implementing really strict restrictions on everybody based around the climate agenda. So, for example, what will happen is if you've got, for example, a digital ID, a digital wallet, and your credit score, your climate score, whatever is connected to that, they will tell you how far you can drive in your car because your carbon footprint is too much. So it's just all different forms of control all coming together at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen, right? It's the same thing with the the global warming thing, right? When they say the climates have always changed, and they go, everyone, yeah, it's always changed. So it used to be global cooling, now it's global warming, it's climate change. And then they go, yeah, well, the people that are like anti the climate change narrative go, well, yeah, the climates have always changed. The argument is whether or not the climates have changed more because of humans. Well, the argument could still be that it has changed because of humans, but not because of you and me throwing our tin cans in the black bin rather than the blue bin or whatever, but because the motherfuckers that are humans that are paid shills are fucking pumping out all of this crap into the atmosphere. They're humans that are doing that as well, right? So like, it's like the argument is, have humans accelerated climate change? Yeah. But is it because of you, Nick, or me, or anyone that's watching this? I don't think so. I think it's because of the motherfuckers at the top that are deliberately going about ways to mechanize this into a problem that doesn't need to be there and that wouldn't be there for them.
If there is a climate issue, if there is some sort of type of CO2 issue, it'd be because they cut down all the trees. If you're familiar with Ayers Rock in America,
fucking trees, Nick.
There used to be giant trees on this earth. On this earth, there used to be ginormous fucking trees that used to
in the north of Scotland, right?
No, not like redwoods. I'm talking like trees that were as big as.
No, I know what you're talking about. There's in the north of Scotland, there's what looks like just like giant, like fucking 100-foot wide, 200 foot wide. It looks like they're little kind of stalks or whatever. I'll find it for the next show. But in reality, they are the kind of the stumps of what were massive trees, absolutely huge fucking trees.
If you're familiar with Devil's Tower, a big tree in America, it's a national monument now in America. Also, Ayers Rock in Australia. These are the remains of gigantic trees. So if there ever was a concern about CO2 emissions and all this stuff, these trees have been cut down and would probably be the consequence of why that would happen. But I know the best thing I've come across in terms of like dispelling the climate change stuff is I come across these idiots that tell me that sea levels are rising, and like the first thing I say to them is, "Are you familiar with Plymouth Rock?" Plymouth Rock, if you're familiar again in America, it's where they first laid foot on the land in America. It's the very first place they landed when they conquered America, Columbus. Plymouth Rock, it's got the carving in it. It's literally 2 inches above sea level when he arrived. And to this day, it is still 2 inches above sea level. So if you want to start talking about climate change and sea level rising, a good way to go about it is go, hold on a second, let me find a few of these ancient sites that are just above sea level and see how far under sea they are now. Oh wait, they're still above sea level. So it's very easy to just, if you can get pictures and be familiar with certain historical sea level positions, like you can just dispel it quite easily, you know. But the one that like kind of gets at me a little bit is the sea level's rising, the sea's rising. No, it's not. But you know, even in the UN, you know, the UN, in UNESCO, in all these, you know, they all say the same. The sea levels are rising, the sea levels are rising, and you get some twonk down the road who's, you know, read about it on Twitter, you know, like the sea levels are rising, the sea levels are rising. You just
If
can't
the sea
argue
levels
with
are really rising, then why is it that people are still buying beachfront property in Miami more
Malibu.
than before? You know, and Obama buying his £20 million mansion in Martha's Vineyard, which will be the first thing to sink. The people that push that narrative are the people that are buying all of the beachfront properties, right?
Like I said as well, in Davos, you know, when with the event they do in Davos every year, there's between 500 and 800 private Learjets that arrive from all over the world of these supreme leaders. And if they were so conscious about the climate, why are they all arriving on separate planes? Why are they not getting one plane to come across with 400 people from America or 200 people from Europe? Or why are they all turning up on their private planes? Because one plane emits so much toxic gas into the climate, it goes against everything you're going and arguing and trying to get funding for. It's just, again, you've got to have a critical eye to be able to see a lot of this stuff, and it's unfortunately lost on a lot of people. But I do have hope for humanity still, and I do feel that somewhere along the line there will be this mass awakening where people go, oh yeah, have a gotcha moment, you know?
Nah, you know what it is? There's too many people. Like my old man, I love my old man to pieces, right? But he's 72 years old, and for the last 20 years, 25 years, I was 17 years old. I'm now 42 nearly. I was 17 years old, 16 years old, and it was just before 9/11, and I found I stumbled across Alex Jones. I don't know how, and then I read David Icke's books, and I got sucked into it. I was like, oh my god, right? Like, what are we doing here? And I fell in love with it. And then for the next 25 years of my life, I spoke to my dad, my brother, my mum. My mum, bless her, she was like, I'm open-minded, Sean. You're a smart guy. If you believe it, you know, you're not often, you know, you don't often sort of move too far in the wrong direction. And I've shown her more and more evidence every time. I go, look, again, more. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. And then now she's like, she's into it. Not into it, but like she's like, yeah, okay. My dad, he's like, Sean, you're a fucking idiot. You are a fucking idiot, bro. And I'm like, I don't think I am. Like, I'm showing you more and more evidence, and over time, rather than arguing with me, now, like, he went from going, like, he used to get so angry with me, like, you follow these shills, these dickheads, Russell Brand and David Icke and Alex Jones, and they're just money hungry prick. It's all a grift. And I was like, isn't everybody a grift? Dad, like, you're a finance guy, right? So, like,
Yeah.
you know, why don't you respect the hustle, even if you think it's bollocks, right? They're all making a coin, you know. But now, whenever I go, again, Dad, another thing that doesn't make sense, and he's just like, they're too set in their ways, because like it would rock their worldview so much to realize that they've been lied to their whole life.
Exactly. Russell Brand sold himself out, and he's living with the consequence of that, and his conscience has got the better of him. But unfortunately, he's made his bending or line it.
Well, he was a fake.
Yeah, he was married to Katy Perry in all the movies and stuff. You know, you don't get to join that group of people and back out of it. So at the moment, he's in that kind of retreat phase where he realizes, I don't want to go through with this, you know, and he's trying to find his way out of it.
He's massively into Christianity now, isn't he? He's read that he's like gone all.
Nah, is he fucked? Is he fucked? Nah, it's but again, if I had the devil on my back, I might turn to Christ. You know, like I think that's where he's at. But I think he's an actor. You know, at the end of the day, you have to remember this guy's an actor. You know, he's playing his part. You know, but he'll get his comments because he double crossed the people that he made an agreement with. But speaking of your old man, funny, I thought of you last night in the most ungay way ever. There was I was watching a movie called Margin Call. I don't know if you remember it from like 2010.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
There's a bit great movie. There's something you said on one of the last shows where it's like your dad told you about the opportunity in Australia because a bunch of people got fired, and he was like, "Don't worry, see, there's an opportunity, and you can get your head around it."
Yeah,
he nicked that from Kevin Spacey in that movie. In that movie, basically like 80% of the floor get fired and they're about to do the margin call. Yeah. And he comes out, he does a big speech for all the lads, and he's like, "You should see this as an opportunity. 3 out of 7 people that were standing in front of you for your boss's job have now been fired." And I was like, that's what fucking Sean's dad said. And I was watching it last night, and I thought,
my dad said that to me in 2011, I think it was. So I think my dad said it before margin call, but
they copied your dad then. Yeah,
well, no, I think it's what some people like. They think of it that way, right? They think about and he was right, by the way. He was right about that.
Yeah, like, it's true. Yeah.
Through every moment of adversity, there is a lesson and an opportunity. 100%, and I will always remember that. My dad's was 100% my hero with all the whole conspiracy thing and the way that he dismissed a lot of my my kind of life interests and passions or whatever. It sort of was a little bit saucy for me for a while, but for things like for the lessons that he taught me about those sorts of things, I'll always be grateful. But look, like I say, mate, like there's some people that where money is their god, other people where God is their god or faith is their god, and look, we're going to try and figure it out on this stream, mate. Like, we've been going for an hour and 10, mate, or an hour and 6. It's probably the perfect time to call it night, but we'll do it again on Sunday if you want, mate. But because I just wanted to put this one out there tonight, but what I'll do is on Sunday I'll have dozens of videos that we can just flick through one at a time and just talk about each individual topic. Right. If you're up for it.
Can I suggest a topic for Sunday then? Because I will be here, I will be available. But one thing that one of my key top conspiracies, and it's nothing to do with crazy flat worlds and stuff like that, the Paul McCartney conspiracy. Did you ever come across that one? And you're search for truth?
He was replaced.
Yeah, in the 1960s, he actually died in a car crash. From what I understand, he died in a car crash, and they've replaced him, and they carried on the charade of him not dying. And John Lennon was the owner of all the rights to all the music, and he named the company Apple Corporation, but they made him change it to Apple Corporation, which became Apple Corporation, and John Lennon could be Steve Jobs and all that kind of stuff, mate. It's the most crazy.
We'll definitely cover that one off. I think we did this last time, but it's been so long ago, we should probably go through it again. If we're talking about cloak and dagger, bait and switches, we also have to talk about the Apollo. Was it the Apollo rocket that blew up? Well, one of the rockets that blew up with all of the people on it, and all those people they're all still alive. They happen to have the same names, look exactly the same, and yet pretend like they're it's just a coincidence. It's absolutely.
It was Apollo 13 or something like that, wasn't it? I think is one of the ones. But there's pictures of them then and then now, and they're all professors in the top universities in America and got these high profile, expensive jobs and stuff. And it's again, you just need to be able to open your eye up a little bit and go, just consider just for a second, what if I have been lied to? What if a lot of what I've been taught is bullshit? And if you can get there, it's a hard path to go down, mate. It's a very lonely path for a while, but there's more of us out here now, than there was a little while ago,
Challenger, right? Okay, here we go.
Challenger.
It was so astronauts. Let's get this up.
It's fucking wild, mate. They've been pulling the wool over people's eyes and making $160 million a day doing it, mate. It's scandalous.
All right, so these motherfuckers, right? These people. Oh, hang about. These people died allegedly. These people were the astronauts, right? They all died. Every single one of these people are still alive, and there's people out there right now. They work in universities. They're all Freemasons, and they have exactly the same fucking names, and they look exactly the fucking same, and they're all about 40 years older than they are. They're the same age, same look. Hang on, let me see if I can find the actual footage of this.
There's videos of them videos of them actually being confronted as well. There's people that have obviously met these people who have studied with them or worked with them, and they've actually asked them on camera, and they're like, you can just read their body language. You know, they all obviously deny it, but you can just see like the way that they react. Like if that was a normal person, they're like talking about like it's obvious. You know, they're actors.
Here we go. I think this is one of them, right? So this is Richard Scobie now. And let me get the picture of him up. Where is it? Here we go. Here's one. So this geezer died, right? Michael J. Smith. Can you see it? Oh, sorry, it's not on the screen, is it? This geezer here died, right? Michael J. Smith. He died. This is also Michael J. Smith. It's hilarious. It's fucking brilliant. This guy here died. This guy here alive. Same name, same age, same face.
It's the Chinese guy that gets me. Do the Chinese one. Do the Chinese one. Is there a Chinese?
This guy on the left died. This guy's about 20 years later, 20 years older. Look at that. They are all alive. This guy here died. This guy here's alive 20 years later. This bird died. This is her 25 years later. Yeah. All of them got the same name. Look, I'm not sure you can see it. Julius Kenrick or Kennick or whatever it is. And then this is her 25. Yeah. Every one of them died, alive. It's a fucking disgrace.
Mate, there will be people on the internet that will swear blind that everything they saw on TV and it was true, and those people were dead. But you have to just be stronger and just be willing to think maybe they're wrong, you know, like the truth will set you free. Like it's an age-old saying, but it's obvious, mate. It's a big stage. Again, this goes into the Charlie Kirk thing. We'll talk about that another time. But
we're doing Charlie Kirk on Sunday. Eugene, what is the point of faking this? It wasn't supposed that the rocket wasn't supposed to blow up, but it blew up, right? And so there was nobody on board, but they said that those people were on board. And then the rocket blew up because there was just a malfunction. And so the story has to be that those people died, but they weren't really on board because they weren't really going to fucking space. And then they've gone, I'll just put, you know, and they're all now professors. They're all Freemasons and got high jobs, whatever. But it's not the point of faking their deaths. They weren't like the rocket wasn't supposed to blow up, but there was nobody on board. So when it did blow up, they then had to go, fuck.
Also, as well, it gives them an excuse to delay continuing because back in the 70s and 80s, the US in particular were adamant, let's go back to the moon, and there was a big thing about it in the Senate, in their Congress. They wanted to go back to the moon, and the public were really eager to do it. So these were one of the groups of people that were charged to do it. By making a big public display of their deaths, it kind of put people off a little bit of like, oh, okay, let's hang on for a little bit. Let's figure out these tweaks and stuff like that. You know, it kind of like pushes the can down the road for 10, 15, 20 years, you know, like they haven't been back to the moon since the 1960s. It's, you know, again, if you had like a little bit of brain power, you could think, 100%. What the fuck? Like, come on, if it was that.
People do what they're told. They believe what they're told.
Sad.
You know, this is like, I know you're a Tottenham fan, mate. We'll end on a Tottenham note. It's this sort of shit that makes me go, when everyone's telling me that Matthias Tell is a shit player, I'm the guy who's going to go, no, he fucking isn't, you absolute bozos. I'm not joining you on your gopher train. You can be all sheep if you want to on the Matthias Tell's a donut. He might end up being a donut, but I'm going to figure that out for myself.
Mate, to be honest, I log into a lot of your, like, obviously chats with Johnny and stuff like that as well, mate. I enjoy them. It gives me a nice bit of listening when I'm cleaning the house up and doing bits and pieces and stuff like that, mate. But I personally, as a Tottenham fan, would get rid of Odobert and keep Tell, and then buy a bit more experience either as a striker or as a left winger and have him cover both the positions, you know? Like, I think there's something in there of him, but I just don't see I don't have the faith in Odobert that you do, unfortunately, mate.
He's going to be a baller. You got to wait, mate. You got to wait.
Nah, mate, we heard.
He's years old, mate. He's 20.
I know, mate, but Spurs are in the Champions League, mate.
Mo Salah was still in Basel in Switzerland at 20.
Mate, he's got no output, mate. Honestly.
Kevin De Bruyne was in Italy when he was 20 doing nothing. Harry Kane just finished his gig at Norwich. Like,
mate,
give these kids a chance, Nick.
I
bro.
beg him every time I watch Tottenham, and this season's been beautiful to watch compared to last season. But mate, every time I watch it, and I think, go on, son, just give me something to believe in, mate. He just doesn't give me anything. You know, I'm just like, I want to fight for him, but just
Odebear's a relationship merchant, mate. He's the sort of guy that meets his he meets his girl when he's 13 years old at school or whatever, and the two of them grow old together. He's a relationship guy. Whereas someone
Mate.
like Jed Spence is the sort of geezer that goes out by himself when he's 45 years old trying to pull. You know,
Mate.
nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. I do that. But I'm just saying, like, there's just horses for courses, different ways to figure it out, you know?
Mate, it reminds me of my ex-wife. Like, you want to believe and you want it to work, but it just won't work. You know, it's just one of those ones. You know, like
it will work, mate. It will work. I promise you.
Mate, I'll hold you to it, mate. I will hold you to it. But I hope you're right. But yeah, no, I just think they've pumped some money into that. I see on one of your shows today they've pumped some money in. So why don't they put a bit of that money into whatever they're going to put it into, the running costs and the stadium and the development of the hotels and stuff, and just go and buy a decent left winger, for fuck's sake. Like that's all they got to do. You know, like the squad looks good. Maybe a nice striker would be good. I think Murani is not really given as much as since he's come in. So let's get somebody in as a striker or left winger. But yeah, mate.
Almost as overweight as I am, Nick. You know, we'll find out though. You know, we'll find out how he gets on. We'll give him a bit of time.
Mate, dead leg, mate. He's had a dead leg for about 3 months, mate. That's like the best excuse to pick up £500,000, isn't it? Like, Jesus.
The only topic that I can think of that's sort of off limits for this channel is I know it's a difficult one because I know it's the sort of epicenter of a lot of conspiracy theories, but I don't really want to talk about Israel and Palestine because it's a raw topic right now, and it's probably not good for things. So sorry, Spurs King, I appreciate you, my man, but on that particular one, we can talk about bigger picture stuff with regards, you know, those sorts of things, but it's a little bit raw right now. What we'll do is we'll come back on Sunday and we'll have a load more Instagram clips. I want to check once I've entered this stream. I want to see whether or not the stream's been shut down for copyright. If it hasn't, because I've been using other people's content, then I can go and like bookmark thousands of awesome videos off of Instagram, and we can go deep on Sunday night if you fancy, Nikos.
Mate, I'm free. Sunday night's good night actually for me. Yeah, Sunday night's good night for me. So just let me know. I'm available. Maybe get some ideas of the topics rather than being so scattergun approach on everything I want to talk about. There's lots of things that people need to be aware of. I saw some people in the comments a minute ago talking about all sorts of stuff. So like, just get a structure to it. I think it'll come across a lot better. But mate, thank you very much for having us on, and I appreciate your time. And 6 months has been since I've been waiting for this conversation. Every now and again I look at my phone and think, come on, Sean, let's just do a little chat. You know, you got a bigger purpose. Let's talk about some real stuff other than Tottenham and Man United.
We're back. We're going to do it. I'll see you on Sunday. Nikos, thank you so much, mate. Guys, everyone in the chat, please say thank you to Nikos. There's a few people, 20 people here, 22 people here. We love you all. Please make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. We'll see you Sunday. And for the rest of you that are Tottenham fans and that, you'll see me tomorrow morning with Bugsy Malone. Appreciate you all. See you again, guys. Cheers, Nikos.